Today we have assistant coach Saddi Washington. Saddi, I really appreciate you coming on. How's it going?
It's going great, man. Anytime we have one of our favorite sons, get a chance to have a conversation with our alum, it's a beautiful thing. I see you got the jersey in the background, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. I got to remind people that I actually played there. It's been a while.
It has been a while, but you've done some incredible things, man. And, happy for you.
I
Happy for you.
appreciate that. I appreciate it. The same to you. And I was just looking, and I realized you coached at Oakland from 06 to 16, and I played against you then.
I did. I was just looking that up before we jumped on the call, and I was like, yo, Stu probably won't remember this, but, I coached against this guy, and, y'all lit us up, pretty good here in Chrysler, but, you had a good team, man. You had a really good team.
Yeah, those are some fun games. We played at the Palace. I remember that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now that one was a little bit closer. That one was a little bit closer at the Palace. But
that's true. That's true. I just remember, God, what was the big man's name? Just dunked on us.
Keith Benson.
Yo, Benson was, yeah. We couldn't deal with him.
Yeah, no, he was good, man. He was good.
But I want to get into some Michigan basketball talk. Obviously, this team is. Well, nobody knew what was going to happen at the beginning of this season. Everybody was scrambling with the pandemic. I mean, how was that to be a coach and to have to deal with all of that, especially at the beginning? I feel like maybe now you get into a rhythm. Sometimes you guys did have the break, so that's another, wrench in the whole thing. But like, how was that at the beginning? Was it tough, or is it kind of just a day-by-day process?
You know what, Stu? It was really just nobody had ever had the blueprint for this, As long as any of us has been coaching, Coach Martelli is the senior, statesman on our staff. And, you can't even go to him to reference, anything like this before. But, I would say it was the leadership of Coach Juwan that really helped our guys get through, this whole pandemic and, all the emotional, physical things that came along with it. And, I mean, from being in this program, a lot of the work that goes into, each new team starts with the identity from the summer leadership stuff that we do in the summertime. And I'm sure you've been a part of that with your teams. And, that's when you really start identifying the identity of the team, the identity makeup, who we're going to be. And then you just really kind of draw on that throughout the season. So I think that's really where we are right now.
Can you speak to more on that identity you guys wanted to capture and bring to the season?
Coach is an extremely competitive guy. It starts from the top down. And I think it was his, it's always been his vision to really, expect excellence out of the group of young men that we have to coach year in and year out. But the biggest thing is just the family atmosphere. We're such a connected team. And I think we've always been, like that was something even with your team, because just talking to people around here, Zach, your class was really kind of the foundation that kind of helped springboard, the next class that followed behind you guys with Tim and all those other guys behind you. So that's just been the nature of Michigan basketball. And I think Coach Juwan has done an incredible job of fostering that relationship, getting the buy-in from our young men. And then obviously you got to have some talent. And our guys use the time wisely in the summer and in the off season to get better. And, here we are, we're just taking it one game at a time and playing the game that's in front of us, but we're having fun doing it.
Yeah. When did you know what this team was capable of? Because everything obviously there's a shortened sort of preseason, I guess, before you get to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And, there's ups and downs. There's a lot of rust. There's a lot of things to figure out. And you're kind of doing things on the fly. Like, when did you know what this team was capable of?
Man, it just kind of happened because obviously we didn't have the same full non-conference slate that, we would typically have, but we played some really good teams, in Oakland and Toledo, Ball State, Beilein, UCLA, some teams that really challenged us early and we were able to kind of find our niche. And so by the time we got into Big Ten play, we just kind of had a really good momentum about us, and started the Big Ten play, I think, against a really good Penn State team that's always tough and gritty. And I think like after that game, we kind of figure like, man, there's something to this, and we just got to stay healthy,
Yeah.
and stay the course and just see what happens.
I want to get into some specifics with players and you dealing with some guys, and you're the wings coach now.
Yeah.
But I want to start off with the break that we had, that the Michigan team had because of the pandemic, because, the athletics at Michigan was shut down.
Yeah.
How do you keep that mindset? Because it's got to be so frustrating, and I feel like you can just get lost without even be able to practice. Like, how are you able to keep everyone together? Is that just a testament to the guys and the coaching staff?
You know what, Stu, anytime I can give kudos publicly to our young men, they got it, man. These dudes are they're just dialed in. And it really did kind of feel like walking back to last summer when we were in a real quarantine, couldn't really go anywhere, couldn't be in the gym, couldn't be in the building. And but I do believe because it was the second time around, right, and we had a little bit of a blueprint to work off of,
Right.
Guys mentally had a better time adjusting, knowing what they had to do in their apartments in terms of trying to stay sharp. And, from a physical standpoint, Sandman is sending them, all kind of workout stuff to stay on top of it. But we were able to, again, like really have some Zoom meetings, dial back in, I guess center back in from a mental standpoint about what was important, how we got to this point of the season, and why it's important to keep doing the right thing so that whenever we're released to get back to playing, we can, hit the ground running. And so far we've been pretty fortunate from that standpoint.
Yeah. Was there a lot of film study? You guys sending a lot of video?
Definitely a lot of film study, man. We didn't want a lot of idle time, idle mind type of thing going on. So, I think I believe that we used our time wisely in terms of just doing what we can to keep everybody engaged. Because the reality was nobody was going to feel sorry for us, right? Like, at some point, pretty much everybody at one point or another has had to pause or miss games or what have you. And we were playing so well at the time going into that break, it was like everybody's chomping at the bits. And so it's like you have to have that right kind of mindset that, we're not going to make excuses for ourselves, and we're not going to allow other people to make excuses for us. So let's just, keep ourselves focused. Let's stay together as a group. Let's keep doing the right things so that we're healthy. And then, when we get back on the floor, it's that locked in attention to detail that our guys have pursued and been chasing all year, that, we're able to get us out the gate against, a tough Wisconsin team and a tough Ohio State team, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't get any easier. It doesn't get any easier the rest of the way. So we just got to stay the course.
You are now the wings coach, right? You were the biggest coach for Beilein, but you're the wings coach now?
Yeah. I've had a couple of different hats, in the 5 years that I've been here, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. And so I've been doing some tremendous work with our wings and just helping those guys, as to put them in position to be in position.
Exactly.
Right? And they've done the work. And again, we just got a special group. Like, they're really attentive to scouting reports, attentive to detail. It's something that Coach Juwan demands, not only of our players, but also of the staff, right? Because we can't expect our players to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves. So it's just this community effort to, as we always say, operate with excellence around here. And, we're just doing our best, brother.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Talk to me a little bit about the development of Franz, and especially throughout the year, because he's obviously needed to be an aggressor on this team because he's so talented.
Yeah.
I've been talking to so many people around the program and just watch all the games. And, we just want Franz to shoot all the time, but he's not quite like that. So how have you worked with that developing that type of player?
Well, I would say he's a much better defender than his older brother, Mo.
Shots.
I kid Mo all the time, but no, Franz he is a player. Like,
yeah.
He loves the game. There are guys that like the game, and then there are guys that love the game. And he's a guy that loves the game. He's a student of the game. Even going back to, probably like the last month and a half of the season, where he really you could see him taking those steps forward, being much more aggressive in his attack downhill, being more sure of himself in ball screens and shooting the ball with a little bit more confidence. And then, the pause or the pandemic, him being able to, go to DC with Mo and hang out with him, train with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think really just kind of, got his head back right again. And he did a phenomenal job this summer with Sandman in the weight room, which was something that he really needed to focus on. And then going into the draft, all these guys have draft aspirations, right? And just watching the draft and, communicating with him and Isaiah, look at the guys at your position that are getting drafted. They're shooting the ball from the three at a high clip. They're two-way guys. Coach Juwan is big on demanding that our guys are two-way players. And so he really embraced that part of his game in developing in one of our, better perimeter defenders.
Yeah.
His length and his athleticism is tremendous. And then his IQ is off the chart. So he's a fun dude to coach, man. And he soaks up all the information.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the beginning of the season watching him and just screaming for him to shoot threes. And now I'm like screaming for him to just take the ball and get into the lane because he's going to do something with it.
Yeah.
But he's such a team player. He's got that sort of that European feel where it's like, we're going to make some passes before.
Yeah.
And then he's going to find his opportunity. So are you guys coaching? I talked to Terry Mills last week, and he said he's been in film sessions where you guys are telling him to shoot more, get in there and just shoot, be aggressive. Then you can make that play after that on the next possession. Like, is that still a day-by-day thing? Or is he kind of like, we told him and now he's figuring it out on his own?
No, I mean, we're always coaching. We're always teaching. We consider
Right.
ourselves teachers around here. And so, again, from being in this program, film work is a huge part of our success.
Yeah.
And so anytime, our guys want it. And Franz is one of those guys who loves teaching. He loves coaching. And so, yes, he has extremely high basketball IQ, but when you point something out offensively or defensively, he's the type of kid that really will then try to put it and make it a part of his game. And I think that's what we're seeing now. So, if he's open, shoot it. If they're closing out hard, drive it. Just make the right basketball play. That's what we're concerned about at this point.
Right. And then you mentioned film sessions. There's some legendary film sessions with Beilein. I mean, times where like, Coach, you can't turn the lights off because guys are going to fall asleep. Like, is Juwan similar in that way?
Well, the difference thing that we're going through now, Stu, is we're not able to use our film room because of the capacity. Sure. So a lot of our film study is done out on the floor in PDC or in Chrysler. But hey, man, I'm right there with you, because my first couple of years with Coach B, I definitely had to have like a hot chocolate, and some snacks to keep me like engaged and awake, because you're right, they get pretty intense. But Coach Juwan is the same way, because that's how they were with the Miami Heat and that whole Heat culture. Just the growth mindset of trying to hit every individual's different learning style, because some guys, they can watch it on film. Other guys, you got to go out on the court and, they got to feel it, spatially. Other guys, you got to bring up into the office and, move the pieces on the board around.
Sure.
So we try to be really attentive from that standpoint, but every day is a learning day around here.
Yeah. You've had the privilege of being under the legend John Beilein staff, and now the growing legend Juwan Howard and his staff, and you've just had you have a very unique position. So I'm curious of what some big similarities and differences are between the two. Like, what stands out to you between them?
Well, I think with Coach B, he's like the master CEO, right? Like he's just meticulous about every single thing. His attention to detail is second to none. It's like he doesn't miss anything, right? And so our preparation day in and day out, when you're doing the waffles and the donuts and the sweets and the, put your foot in the ground, land on two, day one, you're like, man, what is this? What is this? But then, right, by game 15 or 20 of the season, you're like, oh, like this is why we did all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the foundation of it is what has built this program. With Coach Juwan, he's very similar because both of them are player development minded coaches. I believe Coach Juwan's real strength is his ability to connect with people, like his authenticity, to be able to engage with people, get this all-in buy-in factor, is what I think has helped our program, in his 2 years. And again, like he's like, so even when Coach Juwan wasn't here, when he was with the Heat, he would always come back in the summertime and just spend time with us. And he would talk Heat culture. We would talk Michigan basketball, and we would all from that opportunity.
Sure.
And so, the similarities are definitely in that, both our player development guys, attention to detail was high, growth mindset. And as a result, you see the consistent pattern of success that has been a part of this Michigan basketball program.
Yeah, definitely. How long do you think it took you to learn all the lingo from Beilein?
It
took me a while.
I always tell people it takes you a good year.
Yeah.
Before you like know it, and then going into year 2, you like start to understand it. Because I know in year 1 I was like, D-Walt, like, what does that mean again? Duncan, like, what? I'm asking the players, like, what the heck is this? And then the funny thing is, then it becomes like part of your basketball language, and it's really kind of hard to get out, right?
Yeah.
And so when the transition from Coach B to Coach Juwan, I'm trying to educate him, trying to give him a little bit of a cheat sheet on, okay, Coach, well, we used to call this, whatever, rocket pistol. And, sometimes we'd be in the meeting, he's like, huh? Like, oh, just trust me. Like, this is what the guys would know this as, right? And even now, like, just some of the stuff or actions that come across, and you just hear some, oh, downtown, that's downtown, right? And you're just like, why do I still remember that? But it just becomes a part of your basketball lingo. And but it's like they say, it's a lot of different ways to coach this game. And I'm just fortunate and blessed to have been a part of 2 very special coaches here at Michigan have taught me a tremendous amount.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get back to some more of the interview with Saddi, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now's the time. BetRivers Sportsbook is offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just 1 playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. When you win at BetRivers Sportsbook, they pay fast. And now it's even faster with RushPay instant approval for withdrawals. It's safe, it's secure, it's reliable. I know because I've used it. With March Madness right around the corner, there's never been a better time to get BetRivers Sportsbook a try. Go to betrivers.com today or download the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So you are a part of the defensive scheming and what people will call the defensive coach, defensive coordinator.
We don't use that term around here, but yeah.
Okay, fair. But I'm curious, and I asked Terry this last week because he's had a sneak peek inside the film room. And this team is very special, very unique defensively. It can cause a lot of disruption. And my teams with Beilein, if you went for a steal and you missed it, you're on the line the next day. Like, that was a no-no. We're playing solid. We're in position all the time. And this team seems to fly around a little more. Now they have the talent, the size. You got Franz, Isaiah out there. You got Hunter down low. Like, you got all these guys, Sean D, all of them from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So are you preaching more of a disruptive type of style?
No doubt. We definitely want to be disruptive. We don't want our opponents to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
There are still very similar principles where we're playing, in our gaps and so on and so forth. But we want to get up and use our length, use our athleticism. You have an elite level defender in Eli from a combo point guard position. You got elite level wing defenders and Isaiah, Shandi, and Franz. And then you have a really good post defender. So like when you have all those different components, you set yourself up to be a pretty good defensive team. And you can, do some things schematically with the depth that you have. And so we just try to grind people out, man. We just try to wear on them over time. And, so far this year, we've been pretty successful at it. But I also think, being in year 2 with Coach Juwan, the returning guys, understanding the system, understanding the new lingo, and his expectations, because there is a shift in philosophy from one regime to the next, and so
Sure.
as much as our guys have been bought in. We added new pieces, and Mike Smith, and he wasn't necessarily known as like a defensive juggernaut when he got here, but like that kid has sacrificed so much, and he's really stepped up and turned himself into a two-way player. So now you got all these different guys that are willing defenders, willing two-way players. Now you got something special.
Yeah, definitely. I want to get into some more of the player stuff, but you mentioned the regime change and what Juwan brings. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the Heat culture and sort of that NBA's outlook that you bring to college basketball, because it doesn't happen too often. Like, is there something different that he brought from the Heat that you noticed right away? What can you speak more on that?
Well, you bring instant credibility,
Sure.
right? And not only
respect is huge. Yeah.
No, I mean, not only has he walked the walk as one of the all-time Michigan greats, he's been to a Final Four, played in a national championship. Well, even before that, he was a 5-star recruit, right?
Yeah.
He left college early, was fortunate enough to leave college early, was a top NBA draft pick. Came back to graduate still with his graduating class the following year. So he is a student athlete, right? Yep. Then he's had a 19-year successful playing career, and then a 6-year successful, coaching career on top of that. And you bring instant credibility. So when he talks, everybody listens. And all of our, our guys want to play at that level. And so, but with all that being said, you got to be bought into what we're doing here at Michigan, because one of the things that I think is very special and unique about our team, and Coach preaches this all the time, when you talk about family, you talk about enjoying the next man's success. And that's something we talk about a tremendous amount. And you can see from where he came from with the Heat culture, expectation was high, the workload was high, but you can see the joy that each man had for one another. And that's, I think one of the biggest things he brought, from that Heat culture and added to the Michigan culture that had already existed.
It's a very, very difficult thing to do, as a player. Like, it is not always easy to root for your teammates at times, especially guys you're competitive with. So it is not easy. And if you can build that culture, it's really special. I talked to Duncan on the pod a few weeks ago, and his journey with the Heat. I don't know if you ever read anything, but they were running him because he wasn't shooting the ball, and that what they love to do is to find out what you're good at and then maximize that and let that shine. Mm-hmm. Did he bring some of that over? And I want to preface it a little bit because of the offense, and I watched the offense in Michigan, and it's obviously very different from Beilein's, where we had a very system-oriented offense, and everyone had their place, and this was the spots we were going to score from, and it's a little more free-flowing. And I think at times, you could see the Michigan team, this team, figuring out where their spots were, where they could attack, when they could attack. Yeah. And, is that sort of is that an emphasis where it's like, hey, the ball's gonna be thrown up. You guys got to kind of figure it out on offense and let your talent shine. Like, is that a thing that goes on in the film sessions?
Well, Stu, when we talk about our guy Debo, it's like, hey man, you're a hired assassin. Like, do what you do well.
Exactly.
You're not trying to beat anybody off the dribble. You get out there and you be the best sticker, in the NBA. And I'm so happy for him to see his success. I told him, I texted him during the finals run. I said, man, you got a Hallmark movie going on here, man.
Yeah,
don't screw it up. Like, but in terms of, there are some differences between how your teams played, but there are some similarities in terms of the spacing, right, and the player movement. And so, again, like there's a lot of different ways to play this game.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that Coach Juwan has done a tremendous job of playing to the strengths of our personnel, putting guys in position to be successful. And then the talent just has shown through. And again, I can't say enough about our guys' attention to detail, attention to the scout report, getting in your film, and not just watching the guy that you're going to guard, but watching, the whole team, because we may switch and you got to know that guy's tendencies. And so it's the level of expectation in certain areas has been put on different things. And again, our guys have just done a tremendous job of buying in.
All right. Talk to me a little about the grad transfers. Is Sean D this intense all the time, even off the court?
Yes, he is, man. That guy, like, however you see him on the sideline, that's how he is in practice. Like, we're going in our shoot around, and how you might pick, 3 or 4 plays that you walk through, and, he's walking. I mean, he's talking and active as if, the game is going on, but like, that's the expectation. Like, that's the expectation that Coach Juwan has brought to the table. But I think we hit home runs with him and Mike in terms of their ability to sacrifice a little bit of who they are as players for the greater good of this Michigan team. And both of them have brought something different, but what they've brought have been necessary for our success this year.
Yeah, for sure. And Mike's has been very interesting because, as everyone knows, he led the country in shots last year, and then he comes in and his role is very different.
Yeah.
And you see, I loved the confidence he played with in Ohio State. Like, everything had a purpose. Every dribble, he knew exactly what he was doing, leading the team.
Yeah. And
I don't envy his position coming into a team like this, because a lot of times you get a grad transfer and, they're just coming in, chuck up shots and, going to a place where, maybe they can just shine a little bit. Mm-hmm. And he came into a spot that he knew was going to be tough, or his role was going to have to change. Like, what were those conversations like before the year started, and even up until this day?
Yeah, no, he's one of those guys that you just talked about. Like, we got to get on him a little bit to, like, come on, man, like, be aggressive.
He's that good.
Like, don't shoot the ball.
Yeah.
Because he is, really bought into this idea of being a special playmaker at this level. I just think that, again, like, he saw something special. We tried to be very intentional in this recruiting process, last summer, as we were trying to fill gaps of this team. We had a really special group with the 4 signees that we had in Jace and Zeb and Hunter and T and Terrence. And then when we started looking at this thing, man, we can really reinforce some areas on the wing and at the point guard spot when we had some attrition. And so it was a diligent process. And I give, Coach Juwan a lot of credit, and our staff a lot of credit, in terms of, like, just really being patient and finding the right guys. And, for both of them, neither one of them had been to the NCAA tournament before. So I think that was like a big motivator in them in terms of choosing the next spot for them. But then when you get here and you realize, like, man, these dudes are different. And, like, the culture is a little bit different from where I came from. And not that, it was good or bad, but it's just different.
Yeah. And
their ability to buy in and be givers and be contributors has been really, really high level. And I just we appreciate their contributions and their sacrifices as people and as players for this program.
Yeah, for sure. And I was reading about you a little bit, reading up, brushing up on you, and you were a holdover from the Beilein regime that we've been talking about. What was that process like? Because I know you've been an assistant coach for so long. You're looking for head coaching jobs. Coach leaves. It's a stressful, anxious time.
Yeah.
Like, was that pretty immediate? Like you kind of knew, or it seems like a tough spot to be in. Like, how did you go about that?
Well, it was an extremely tough spot. I mean, in my first 3 years, the Michigan experience has been incredible to me and my family. My first year, we win the Big Ten Conference Championship. Then we followed out by a Big Ten Conference Championship and a Monday night appearance. And then we followed that up by making it to the Big Ten Conference Championship again, and then making it to the Sweet 16. So the level of success that had been going on was like, I was on cloud nine. And then normally, when you're in a situation with the changeover, it's not necessarily because like this one was unique because we have been doing some really good stuff, and an amazing opportunity, came about for Coach Beilein, and we were all happy for him, but then it kind of left everybody in limbo a little bit, like, oh my goodness, like what is going to happen? So there was like I don't know, maybe like a 7 to 10 day period where, it was like, man, do I start looking for jobs? Do I try to wait and see what happens here and try to stick around? And, fortunately for me, we had a good group. And so that process for me was like, all right, we gotta hold the team together while Ward and the administration goes through this process. And again, I give our team a tremendous amount of credit because we didn't have anybody transfer during that time. But I think it was, at the time, myself, DeAndre Haynes, Luke Yaklich, like we were just committed to trying to keep the team together, regardless of what was going to happen to us, because we knew that we had a special group. And then, like I talked about before, the relationship that had started to develop with Coach Juwan. I tell a funny story. Like one of the times that he was here and we were going through, like our little chalk talk with our staff, and he was leaving out on vacation, later that day and needed a ride to the airport. And he was like on an Uber. It was like, dude, come on, man. Like, no, we got you. I got you. I'll take you to the airport. I always tell people, I said, I think that I said, neither one of us knew at the time, but that might have been my interview right there.
Yeah.
So once he got the job, I didn't want to like bombard him and pressure him about like,
Sure.
what he was going to do. But I did make it very clear to him that, if he was willing to keep me around, I would love to kind of help him, usher in his new vision of this, as I call it, the new blue. And, I'm very thankful to him for keeping me around and allowing me to still be a part of this Michigan experience. And, it's something special. It's something special about this place. And hopefully we can make our alums, like yourself, continue to make you guys proud of the work that we're trying to do here.
Yeah, for sure. And as an alum, I'm very happy to see you still at Michigan. I really appreciate all the work you've done. I got a couple questions that I like to ask at the end with every guest. But before we get to that, I want to preview. I don't give away too many secrets, but preview the Iowa game a little bit. Are we looking to stop Garza, or is it kind of like we'll see what happens and maybe take care of the rest?
Man, it's like you flip a coin and
sure.
That dude is incredible, man. Like I don't know that you necessarily stop a talent like him. You do your best to contain him. They have a tremendous group over there. They have been great all season. And, we got our work cut out for us. But, like we've done for, I don't know what our record is, but for the other 16, 17 games that we played, we're going to prep and give ourselves the best chance to compete and win a basketball game.
Yeah, it's always funny when people ask me, like when I was playing, we like win a big game. and they're like, oh man, it must have been felt so great, and like must have been so special. I'm like, I don't know, we got Northwestern on Monday. Like I can't, it's just one game at a time, and we got to keep, it's the same process. I don't know, I can't
That's it.
process
That's
all this
it.
stuff. Yeah,
No,
I'm
it's
picturing
good.
also Sean D just in Hunter's ear, just making it personal for him versus Garza. I feel like that's something he'd be doing.
Well, you know this, like it's hard to have a good team without a really good scout team. And we have a
Yes.
high level scout team around here, and guys like Luke Wilson and Jaron Foles and Brandon Wade and CJ Bear, Rico Zuna. I mean, like those dudes are high level.
Yeah.
And you know, they're a big part of our team's success. And you know, they don't get a lot of credit, but you know, because you've been in those. You've probably been on both sides of it.
Yeah.
There are some days when the scout team definitely gets the best of us in terms of the preparation. And so, again, but that's all part of the family. That's part of the all buy-in effect that we try to create around here. And but you're right. You know, Sean D, Jace, you know, they're like the best hype man in the country.
Yeah,
man.
Jace too. Yeah, of course.
So,
You got to have those guys.
It's been incredible. It's been incredible.
Yeah, for sure. A couple more questions before we get out of here. One being, I love to always look at the other side, and we like to talk about the wins and the good feelings, but I'm always interested in sort of the last college game that, you know, every guy interviewed, they played. So take me through that last game, and also like the feeling when it was all over in the locker room after, and then even the week following. Like, does that still stick with you, or are you able to kind of push that aside and forget about it?
My last game that I played, or the last game that we coached?
No, your last game at Western Michigan. Yeah.
Wow. So the last game that I played was against Stanford University in the second round of the NCAA tournament.
Tough.
And I was a fifth-year guy because I got injured my sophomore year, and the first day of practice my sophomore year, and then I re-injured my knee. So I had like 2 knee injuries. So saying all that to say, and we were always close at Western in terms of, you know, making the tournament. And at that time, the MAC was like a multi-bid league. And so in my last season, we were co-champs. And so you got players like Bonzi Wells, Wally Zerbiak, you know, Earl Boykin. I mean, like the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And so when we lost in our conference tournament, right, it was like devastating, because it was like, oh my God, like we were regular season champs, but like we may have just screwed ourselves with the opportunity to make the NCAA tournament. And every kid who comes to college wants to play in the NCAA tournament. Like March Madness stops the whole country for a weekend, you know, right, once it starts. And so, you know, I can remember on selection Sunday when our team name popped up and we were 11th seed, you know, I went crazy. I'm running around, you know, my apartment, and then you realize, oh snap, okay, we're playing Clemson in the first round, but we're playing in Chicago, which was, you know, really close to Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
So our fan base was able to travel, and we just had a bunch of dogs on our team that really got after it, and we played really well. You know, probably outkicked our coverage in that first game. And like now we're feeling like not only did we make the tournament, but we won a freaking game, you know? And then we just ran into a really good Stanford team. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they made it to the Final Four that year.
That's right.
And but you know, that satisfaction of like being on that big stage, coming from a mid-major team and winning, right, and competing against the best competition in the country, and then understanding, okay, you just ran into a better team. You know, I felt like I hadn't left anything on the table from a career standpoint, and it was just about, you know, reassuring the younger guys that, hey, you know, we've tasted some success, and do whatever you can to try to, you know, hold on to that and keep it moving forward. So I, you know, when I when I got here, and even coaching at Oakland, like we went to the tournament 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
You get to a place like Michigan, and you can, I think guys can, sometimes take for granted, you're going to the tournament every year, but it's hard. Like it's hard, to get there. And so really embrace it, really enjoy it. And so that when you become our age, you can reflect back on it, and you can look back on that time in a very favorable way.
For sure. Now, I usually ask this question to guys that played at Michigan, but I would define you as a Michigan man now. You've established yourself. You've been there long enough. So I'm curious, what is one thing that you have learned at your time at Michigan that always sticks with you, that you carry with you to this day right now?
Michigan is excellent in being excellent, both academically and athletically. We believe that there's no better blend of academic or athletic excellence in the country. And I think not just with our sport, but with all the sports within our athletic department, because again, we're always celebrating the next person's success. Sure. And I know Ward was on a call, like a staff call the other day, and I think he said like 11 of our teams that are currently playing right now are ranked, so that just tells you the level of success, across the board in our athletic department. And it's a beautiful thing. And so, again, that this place is very special. And our alumni base is committed and crazy. And, we do everything we can to uphold the standards and the legacy that guys like yourself have laid before. So, we're going to keep trying to make you guys proud, and, just stay with us, man. We're on to something special with this group.
Oh yeah. I believe for sure. No matter what the record is or what happens, I fully believe. And I think a lot of people buy in. So it is a nice thing to watch. People are very excited. That is for sure. Well, Saddi, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It means a lot to me. Best of luck for the rest of your year. I'll be watching intently against Iowa. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Stu, and I appreciate you having me. Go Blue.
Yeah. Go Blue.